And hello, wow, we've made it all the way to module 5. This is amazing. I'm really excited to get to this one for you because in this particular module, you're going to get to choose some things that you really like and don't like, and you're going to give yourself some latitude to try different things if you don't already have a tracking system in place. Now, I do want to tell you that I've worked with several entrepreneurs who do have tracking systems in place. They use either, QuickBooks or Quicken or something like that. There's lots of different ones. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are managing the flow if you're just doing the data entry but don't understand what you're reading. So I'm going to give you some options to maybe do a supplemental type report as well so that you can understand what it is you're looking at. And of course, starting with a quote, never take your eyes off the cash flow because it's the lifeblood of business. Always want to try to maintain a positive cash flow. Does it always happen? No, but we're going to try. All right, so in this module, you're going to start tracking your money, all of your money. We're going to make a management habit out of taking care of your money. And we're going to learn how to manage cash flow and some things and steps that you can take to make sure that you don't run negative. All right, so this again is that slide about money running off of spending itself. Every bit of money has a job to do, and we're going to track it. We have absolute categories. We're not just labeling things petty, cash, or miscellaneous. Our spending plan, we just made it. It's very simple. It's straightforward. It's easy for us to work through. And you're going to plan your paydays and write yourself a check only on those days, leaving everything in the operating account. Now, I had the great fortune to work with a client this morning for the first time, and she only had an operating account. She had never had a holding account for anything. And, that was something she said that she'd never heard anybody talk to her about before, and she's had business coaches before. I think that by giving yourself an opportunity to have this different approach, to use these different money mechanics, you may find what really works for you. And I really hope that you find after this lesson, after this module, that it becomes something that you're excited to take care of and not just having to do. All right, so this is 2 parts, sorry. Tracking and adjusting are 2 parts. Logging is another way to put it, logging and review. So tracking, so we're gonna write it all down. We need to know where it goes. You can enter it into a spreadsheet online. You can use a notebook. You can have just a daily income sheet if you have income daily. I want you to look for your patterns. Are you having more sales in the first week of the month than the third? Are you having higher volumes at certain months of the year? I also want you to watch the petty cash. We don't want to use petty cash really as a title or a category. We want to make sure we use a category. And your method doesn't matter. And what I mean by that is if you want to do it online, if you want to use a spreadsheet, if you want to use software, if you want to use a pen and paper, however you do it, it doesn't matter. But whatever type that you stick to, I want you to stick to it. Find the one that works for you. And again, give yourself some latitude to try some other ways of tracking. I want you to set up any item lines that you need, by the way, in writing your profit parking lots. We want to write down what they are and the purpose. And we want to be consistent in our labeling month over month. So if you're going to use a term like, new course, because you're building a course, then you're going to use the same term over and over, but I'd give it a name, make it so that the labeling is so consistent you can look back over time and know exactly what you're talking about. All right, so I gave you a couple of things to think about, but you can use a calendar, you can use the tracker in the workbook, you can use a check register, you can use a phone app, and you can actually use your cash register if you're using like Square or Stripe or even PayPal, because they're going to actually give you a running total of what's come in and when. You can use a notebook, you can use a spreadsheet, you can do whatever you want to track your money. The goal is to write all the transactions down, to write it all down. If you have daily income, I would encourage you to have a daily income sheet. You don't have to worry about anything other than writing down your total for the day. And if you have sales tax, write down your total sales tax for the day. Other than that, we can do the calculations later, because remember, everything's going to flow into that operating account. So basically what we're going to do is you also want to have a place to write down what you withdraw from your account at any time. But we're going to start doing weekly sales, weekly expenses. So write down what you're doing every day, set aside a time, and we're going to actually balance everything and pay our bills weekly. So by doing this, really what we're doing is we're going to have a good tracking method for taxes, and we're going to have our operating account kind of getting filled all week long, and then we drain it a little bit to pay our expenses. Now, the one thing about tracking your money all the time and doing it this way, where you write it down daily and track your sales and your expenses weekly, if you have a discrepancy, if you can't find some piece of money, then you don't have to wait to find the error because you're doing it every day or you're doing it every week. Now, I also want you to note any unexpected fees immediately to adjust your plan. And I'm talking about overdraft fees and late fees. These do happen. They can be very steep. Overdraft fees, I've seen, you know, 40 bucks, 45 bucks. Late fees can be $29, $39. That's a chunk of change. Make sure that you adjust the rest of your plan throughout the month to accommodate those fees if you get them. And hopefully we won't get them doing it this way, but you never know. All right, so again, using the calendar, just like you did the planning, you're gonna do the dates and the bills when they're due. But now you're gonna write your daily totals in if you want, total up your week, you know, at the last day of your week, and I want you to account for every dime. At the end of the month, the total that you have coming in should equal the total that you have coming out. Because we're not gonna just let stuff linger in the holding account or in the operating account. We're gonna move it to a holding account to make sure it's not accidentally spent the next month. Again, we want to use categories. Now, what I found for some of my clients, again, visual people, is they will write the color total in, let's say, blue or pink, and they'll write the total out in, you know, red or black. So at a glance, they can look at the monthly calendar. They can see what days they had money come in. They can see how much money came in. They have a weekly total of what came in, and then they also have a weekly total of what went out. And then you can save these for taxes. You can save a calendar. You can save a notebook. You don't have to have some pretty spreadsheet to save it for taxes. This works just as well because you have a written document stating that this is what came in and came out. All right. I also include something called a single sheet tracker. I know a lot of people actually like this because basically all you're doing is you're deciding what expenses are getting paid and you're writing them down, and then any other buckets that are filled. So the amount that you bring in needs to equal the amount that goes out. So other buckets filled could be holding account, could be operating account, could be emergency fund, could be anything. But what you're doing is you're saying, okay, for the week 1, January 1st to the 7th, I earned $1,000, and then I paid, you know, $100 to the electric, $50 to the water, $75 to my internet, and you would list those there. And then your other buckets. I left so much in the emergency fund or in the operating account. I moved so much to the emergency fund, and I made my C fund deposit. This way here, the amount in at the end of the month has to equal the amount out. Now, I try to do it as much as I can every week, and I'll note a total of what was left in the operating account if I just decide to leave it there week by week. At the end of the month, though, my cash flow needs to be somewhat positive in that I am siphoning off, if you will, at the end of the month. I've planned for the next month. I don't have to hold anything else back. I will go ahead and siphon that out of the operating account, and I'll put it into a holding account, or I will put it into, you know, a profit parking lot of some kind. So this way here, you really do have your fingers and your on the pulse of your money coming in and out. You're accounting for every dime, and you're deciding where it goes. This is an excellent exercise to make sure that nothing's running off and spending itself. All right, receipts. So I just have a folder, or actually it's a manila envelope. I write the month on the top, and I throw all the receipts in there. I also print receipts if I pay something online. And to log them, I literally just, you know, like in that tracker, I would just log them there. I put them all in the same place. You know, if I don't get to log them right away, I actually have a little inbox, and then I put them in the envelope. Now, if you are somebody who's going to sit down weekly and log everything, you have to have a place to put just your receipts. It can be a pretty jar, it can be a basket, it can be an inbox like I have, a middle inbox. This way here, you keep your receipts segregated and separated, and you can just go ahead and pick up the pile of receipts, log them at the end of the week, put them into your envelope for the month, and you're good. You're done. You have everything taken care of and put together, and it doesn't become a huge shoebox mess at the end of the year. All right, money tracking tips. So I want you to set aside a time each day if you have daily sales, or at least each week, to log your sales and expenses. At the end of the month there, you want to spend that 45 minutes and just do a quick calculation and make sure the money came in equals the money going out and that you had a place for all of it. This way here, if something did fall through the cracks this month, that's okay. Take a note and you can address it. And then I want you to give yourself grace, because again, just like budgeting can take an average of 3 months or so before it's consistent, tracking can be the same way, 3 to 4 months before you make it a true daily or weekly habit. But you know, any step that you make in progress is great, and you really are doing well to take control of your money. All right, review. This is the other part. So this is really where the cash flow mastery has to come in. So you want to review your cash flow, your expenses, your B number and goals, and have a plan for all of your profits. And what the review side allows you to do, and we also call it the adjust, is it means you can move money as necessary or allocate money as necessary to cover things if someone pays late, that kind of thing. So you are going to have to adjust your plan just about every single month. So I want you to know that if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. You know, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. But here's another statement. This was kind of an Army thing. No plan survives first contact. So we can have all the plans. We can have everything lined up in our minds. But the fact is, when we actually get going, it's probably going to change. And that's okay, because you're going to learn to become very flexible with this. I want you to know, too, that if you have a slower month, it's okay. If you are consistently missing your B number after you were hitting it consistently, there may be some other issue. So you can use this tracking, this business cycle, and this management style to actually make sure that your business is still thriving the way that it should. I want you to also take a little time and know what are your industry's best quarters and what are their slowest quarters. Because I want you to have a plan for both. On the best quarters, you know, we might want to siphon off a little bit, put in an emergency fund. In the slowest quarters, of course, we're going to want to make sure that we really watch our cash and we're not doing a lot of excessive spending. Watch your cash. That's the money coming in, your tangible cash. And you want to make sure that it's staying positive as much as possible. If you start to run into a cash flow issue, that would be what your emergency fund is for, even in the short term. And I want you to be willing to stay flexible and make changes. All right? But here's the thing, you're in control. You get to adjust when the changes have to come through. You have to pay the expenses in a way that protects your cash every month. You can move profit to different locations as much or little as you want to. And you need to just write it all down. Don't try to rely on memory if you change something. So let's talk about cash flow. One of the biggest ways to protect your cash flow was one of the first things I asked you to do, which was to take everything off autopay. Because now you're in 100% control of what comes out. I want you to know that if anybody has electronic access to your accounts, they can take that money out when your subscription agreement says they can take it out, whether or not somebody paid you that month, or whether or not somebody's check hasn't cleared, or whether or not, you know, you didn't get that deposit from PayPal or Stripe. It doesn't matter. If they have electronic access, they can go in and they can take it. So you must really make sure that you're being intentional and that you're in control, okay? If you have an annual subscription and they have to be on the card, for example, you have a subscription for $15 a month on, I don't know, Acuity Scheduling or Calendly or something that has to come out on the card every month, please make sure that you are very careful to note the date and the amount that comes out and when. Track them carefully. Do not let anything go onto a subscription that you forget about and that you're just paying every single month but not using. If someone is late paying you, you can always hold something like an electric bill or a water bill for a few days. You can also hold a credit card bill for a few days. The credit card cash flow boogie sounds like this. Uh-oh, my water bill is due, but so-and-so didn't pay me, so I need to put it on my credit card. Then the cash comes in and you pay off your credit card completely, but now due to timing, you're still short some cash. So you go back onto the credit card for something else. Then the check comes in, you pay the balance of your credit card, but once again, you now have no cash. I want you to hold your bills. It is better to pay them a day late or 2 days late and hold them to make sure that you have the cash coming in to pay them than it is to keep having this horrible cycle of going on the card, getting off the card, going on the card, getting off the card. And, you know, going that way also makes it very stressful because, you know, if you make a mistake, you can bounce a check. I mean, there's just a lot of things that can be very stressful. about doing the credit card cash flow boogie. Definitely not a fan. So I want you to be in control of who gets paid, how much, and when. And if you have to hold the bill and make a phone call, hold the bill and make a phone call. Don't put it on the credit card, okay? Now, if you know you're going to be short on cash that month, that's what your emergency fund is for. Remember, we've already taken care of it. We protected your cash flow. We have an emergency fund. Keeping your priorities straight, again, you want to make sure that you're answering your B number first. That is the #1 priority. And if you have an emergency fund, again, I want you to use that before you use any debt. I don't want you putting anything on credit card that would be a B number expense to the greatest extent possible. So cash flow tracking does not need to be complicated. The only thing you're trying to do is make sure you have more money in than you have money going out. So you can track the cash in from each line of business. For example, you could put courses made me 1,000 this month. Coaching made me 1,000 this month. T-shirts made me 500 this month. How much came in? 2,500. How much should go out? Not 3,000. And actually, I have worked with clients before that had a negative cash flow month over month, meaning that they were just making enough sales each month to outpace their problems, but it doesn't last forever. You cannot operate in the red every single month and stay in business. So this tracking can be very helpful if money flows in several ways. So you can also see how each line of business is doing. So maybe you have to make tweaks. Maybe you change your marketing strategy so you're getting more sales in a different line. All of this goes right back to your cash flow, in that you know where your money is coming from, and it's all going into your operating account, and you know where the money's going. So you only count the cash as it comes in as a payment. I don't want you to count booked income. So if somebody agrees to do business with you, but they haven't paid you yet, I don't want you to count that money in future sales. You can write down, of course, expected business. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're not going to include that in any way in cash flow. And there have been times I've had someone say, well, they promised to pay me by the end of the month, and they include it. And the fact is, the cash isn't there. So you can, again, write down that it'll be future business, but the cash that comes in is the only cash you can track. I want to remind you, too, to write down your changes. So let's say that you have a better than average month and you go ahead and you increase your Facebook ad budget. Write it in there. Go ahead and write down that you changed the budget. If you have a slower month and you're taking something out of a budget, write it down. Write down what the changes are. Because if you take something out of a marketing budget to pay something else, it doesn't mean that they're not both tax deductible, but it gives you just a much cleaner tracking system to look back at the end of the year and to see exactly what you're paying in which one of your categories, right? So rent, utilities, marketing budget for Facebook ads, marketing budget for a VA, just whatever those tracking numbers are. If you have to move money around, and you might, just make sure that you write it down and don't rely on your memory. Now, the one thing about tackling debt, if you're paying over the minimum payment, I want you to do that really towards the end of the month. You can make an extra payment or hold it back, and the next monthly payment make the large snowball payment. Again, we don't want to do that until we know everything else is paid. But I want you to make sure if you're doing those overpayments that you're writing those down as well. That is affecting your cash, and also it's dumping your minimum balance, which is really cool. The end of the month plan can also inform your next month plan. So you can save this one, look at it, and inform the next month and make your planning and any adjustments based on that. All right, so this graphic here says monthly profit can go to different places. So after your B number, really, I treat everything else as profit, because, basically after, after you've paid all of your 4 walls, then everything else is available for your emergency fund or your C fund, or it's available for personal debt, for growth, for other goals, for distributions, for expansion, everything. Your monthly profit, the part of your money above your B number, that can go anywhere and everywhere. And, I did actually end up working with someone today a little bit on their profitability. And profitability means that that you're not only making more than what you're putting out, but also you are making enough that you can continue to grow and do some other things in the business. So profit's not a dirty word. I had this conversation with this person, because sometimes as business owners, if we're able to take a paycheck for ourselves, pay our employees, you know, pay all of our bills and whatever else have you, and maybe we don't want to touch our prices because we don't want to be seen as greedy. Maybe we don't want to, you know, work on our profitability because it seems like we might be, you know, greedy. We may be getting too much money. Maybe we don't deserve to make all that much money in business. And those are really mindset issues. And I really don't deal much with mindset, money mindset. But I can tell you that that is a block that causes a lot of entrepreneurs to get to a certain point and never go anymore, because they look at that profit line and they don't think they need to fill it. I'm here to tell you that you do need to fill it, because if you do, you can continue to grow and impact more people. So I do want you aiming for that profit, and I do want you to have a plan for it, and I want you tracking it month over month, and be very proud of yourself that you're turning a profit. So that's it. Congratulations. You have a money management system. The process that you used this time, which was what? Identifying. Okay, we pinpointed. You know, once you do it once, by the way, it should usually last you for a quarter before you have to do it again. So we pinpointed, then we plan, then we protect. This time we manage. Our last pillar, the next one we're going to talk about, is producing more. But for now, wherever you are in your business, you have the steps that you need to be able to make sure your money doesn't spend itself. And I'm really excited for you, and I'm very proud of you. If you have any issues and you want me to tweak something with you or for you, drop me a line, assist@entremoneycoach.com, because again, you need to give yourself a little bit of grace. It takes about 3 to 4 months to make this a habit. And again, there is a monthly planning group that is available online. And that monthly planning group, you know, is basically, we sit down together and we make it a priority every single month. So here's how we make our new progress, our new process works, is we celebrate the progress. You understand that you're changing your behavior. You do set aside some time each week and each month. And then you commit not to avoid the money planning conversations or the money management conversations. And I want you to reward yourself. What are you getting yourself this week for completing this module, for taking the time to put things in place? I want you to think about something. Drop me an email. Tell me what your reward is. I'm excited. I really want to hear. And finally, our action items again for Module 5. Choose a tracking method that you want to try, or if you have a tracking method and you like it, make a commitment to stick with it and maybe just check it more often. Again, I want you to choose the time of the day and the week when you will track your income and expenses. And again, it's just one time of the week where you need to sit down and rectify everything. Every single day, you'll write down what you make. It just flows into that operating account. And then I want you to just have a plan to protect your cash flow by taking everything off of auto pay. And I want you to write yourself kind of a contingency about how you are going to go ahead and protect your cash flow if you're paid late or you have a down month. Take a moment and just think about, what are the positive steps I can take, whether it's having an emergency fund, holding a bill back maybe a few days or something like that, to make sure that your cash flow is protected. And that's it, Module 5. I'm really excited. We have one more module to go, and that's going to be all about creating more income, producing income. So I can't wait to see you in the next module. Have a great week.